The books were all neatly indexed by a vast series of cards in a wooden case. It looked like the von Uberwalds were using an ancient version of Huey's octal system of indexing. It was complicated, but I reckoned I could at least use it to find out what books they had on a particular subject, and then wander around until I saw a bookshelf with the right number on it. I found a copy of Orange Crates on the Nature of Plants. The book was a tediously detailed study of the plant kingdom, and one of the most boring things I've ever read. But I found the moss in there. Apparently it was a lycanthrope, a type of animate moss with crude locomotion, found only in the worst sewers in the most decrepit urban areas. Apparently the lycanthrope looked like harmless moss until something to eat walked by. Then they transformed into a deadly lichen and devoured their prey, at least as long as it was small enough. Otherwise, they just clung on for dear life. I checked through the library and found some ancient plans of the city of Ankh. There was an intricate sewer system beneath the city. It must be thousands of years old. It would be in quite a state if it was still around, and as far as I could tell, it would be under the waterline if there wasn't a drought on. Given the rains that we'd had recently, I could only find one section of sewer that might be above water. There was a shallow sewer running from the Magdalen Bridge around the rimward side of the Royal Winter Palace of the Kings of Ankh, now the home of the patrician. I guess the designers weren't allowed to put sewers under the palace grounds, which might have been why the Royal Summer Palace of the Kings of Ankh was a long way from Ankh-Morpork. That and the stench of the river Ankh, anyway. The ancient civic plans from the library led me straight to the sewer's entrance, not far from the Magdalen Bridge. A relatively small tunnel was concealed beneath a pile of debris that must have accumulated over the centuries. It looked as if most of the tunnels here were actually still above the water line, or the sludge line, to be more honest about it. The trail that I had seen in the cemetery seemed to continue down in the sewers, starting at one of the pipes and disappearing into the passageways. It was almost drowned out by the smell of the Ankh, though. There was all manner of debris piled up inside the niche. It looked like some kind of nest. There was all manner. It looked like some kind of nest. Amongst the garbage was some kind of pendant. The metal of the pendant. It was the same presence I'd felt in the Milka's hole. I could feel the cold touch of death upon me. It was a strangely light touch. Size obviously isn't important, I agree. You are Death, right? Rats have their own death? No offense, I mean, you're very, very intimidating. For a skeletal rat, at least. So what's your connection to the big guy? You're sort of like relatives, then. You probably get together for birthdays and Hogwatch night. I'd like to see that. If you don't mind me asking, were you on the Milka before? I thought so. What were you doing on the Milka? Uh-huh. No, please. Go on. Did you see anything? Well, I don't know. Anything unusual? Anything else? And that's here. This is its lair. It can't be very big. That's not very comforting. But I guess that's not your job. Comfort, I mean. I wasn't suggesting you weren't good at your job. I've never looked at it that way before. I couldn't believe it. I was talking to a phantasmal rodent. I hoped he couldn't read my thoughts. He seems easily offended. So, what's it like being the death of rats? You don't get to talk much, do you? I found this in the nest. Do you know anything about it? It was on the Milka, so this thing brought it here for some reason. I could really use some help, you know. Oh, forget I asked. Well, it was nice meeting you. I have to get going. It's not like that. I have a lot of work to do. You too, huh?
You wanted to see me.
I tried to reach you at the mansion, but you're never around when I need you.
You never need me when I'm around.
A funny thing happened to me the other day.
You arranged all this just to tell me an anecdote?
It's a funny little story. I think you'll like it.
I'm listening.
The other night, someone stuck a sword through my ribs.
Ah, it must have been someone who knew you well.
The thing is, not long afterwards, I was in my coffin thinking about it when I realized I wasn't dead.
That was lucky.
Luck was not a factor. Why did you do it, Carlotta?
Do what?
Make me a werewolf.
If I hadn't, you'd be dead. Would you prefer that?
That's not the point, and you know it. You did something to me that was going to change who I was for the rest of my life. And you didn't even tell me.
I didn't think you'd understand. Besides, it wasn't as if I planned it.
Are you telling me you turned me into a werewolf by accident?
How long have you been a werewolf now?
Not long.
Have you felt what it's like? That force that pulls on you, that draws your attention to every jugular, pulsing with life? The irrepressible call of fresh blood? A sudden attention to the phases of the moon?
I have to fight to keep control.
We all do. Coming to a city of 1 million people, it's like a starving monkey wandering into a banana plantation. You learn to live with it.
And you decided to infect me with lycanthropy?
Infect is such a negative word. I prefer blessed.
You think this is a gift?
Of course it's a gift. It's the greatest gift I could give to someone, and I chose you.
Why?
You're a smart man, Luton. Figure it out.
Reagan's dead.
I'm not surprised.
You don't seem to care.
Everybody dies, Luton. Mundy, Reagan, even you.
What's your point?
No point. That's just life.
Where were you when Reagan was killed?
When was he killed?
Shortly after dropping you off at the Temple of Small Gods.
Well, there's your answer then.
The person who killed Mundy hung him upside down and poked his eyes out. Can you think of any reason they might have done that?
What? No. Why should I?
Well, you knew Mundy. I didn't. I thought you might have an insight on it that I didn't. Did you kill Mundy?
What? What do you think I am, Luton?
It's got nothing to do with what I think of you, Carlotta. But the Watch are investigating, and if they find out about your connection with Mundy, you're bound to be a suspect.
So why are you asking me if I did it?
Let's just call it professional curiosity.
If I had done it, would you turn me in?
That depends.
On what?
On why you did it.
You don't strike me as a moralist, Luton.
I'm a simple man, Carlotta. I have simple ideas of what's right and what's wrong. The trouble is, things are seldom that simple. It's always somewhere in the middle ground. I try not to jump to conclusions. In my line of work, that can get you killed.
That must be a tremendous incentive to think everything through.
I do my best. You still haven't answered my question.
I didn't kill him, Luton, if that's what you really want to know.
Do you have an alibi? I told her when the murder took place and asked her if she had an alibi. I wasn't surprised when she did. Frankly, I reckon I could have said any day and any time, and she'd have had an alibi. She was that kind of woman.
There are witnesses who can corroborate where I was.
And where were you?
I was in the Temple of Small Gods.
Spend a lot of time on your knees, do you, sister?
We all need a little absolution.
For your sins?
Everything I do is a sin in someone's eyes.
I told Carlotta when Malachite was murdered and asked her where she was at the time.
I was at a service then. Why do you ask?
A service?
I happen to enjoy services.
I bet I would, too. Why don't you invite me to one?
I wouldn't be allowed to bring an unbeliever.
How do you know I'm an unbeliever?
I doubt you believe in anything.
A man can change. Don't you have a recruitment policy?
I'd rather not talk about religion. It's such a controversial subject.
I can't help but notice that your recurring alibi for the murders is that you were at the Temple of Small Gods.
Everyone needs a little solace now and then.
You seem to need it a lot.
I'm not easily satisfied.
Which god is it that you worship?
I really don't like to discuss religion.
Come on. I only want to know the name.
All right. Her name is Errata, but I don't appreciate you prying into my spiritual affairs like this.
Can I pry into your physical affairs?
My affairs are never just physical.
I bet you say that to all the boys. Where can I find you?
I'll be around.
That's not very helpful.
What can I say? I go where I want to, with anybody I want. I just happen to be that kind of girl.
This isn't over, Carlotta.
I hope not. We don't have to be enemies, Luton.
We'll never be friends.
Let's not fight, Luton. We can work together, recover the sword together.
I don't know who you are anymore.
I'm the same girl I ever was, Luton. It's you that's changed.
You're telling me.
You know, Luton, you don't have to work with me. You don't have to say anything, and you don't have to do anything. Not a thing. Oh, maybe just howl. You know how to howl, don't you, Luton? You just pull your jaws apart and blow.
After Carlotta had left, I sat alone in the cafe, thinking about my problems. As bad as it seemed, my life was still better than it was a few years ago. Back then, I would have sat alone in the cafe, drinking through my problems. The scent was too weak for me to really remember it. One of the empty barrels had a faint magenta trace to it. The scent was too... One of the Definitely the same scent as my killer, which meant whoever it was made it into the palace concealed in a wine barrel. Why did that bring to mind the phrase, "You wait, time passes," and Thorin sits down and starts singing about gold? The palace walls were useful. Looking closely, I could see the other side of the hole in the wall. Can I ask you a few questions?
Well, we are a little busy at the moment. Can it wait?
How long?
Just a day or so.
No, then it can't wait.
Very well. What did you want to know?
Do either of you recognize this?
Is of much familiarness.
From where?
Near sort being somewhere near. Ah, yesness. Seal on temple in Alkali.
It's the seal on the doors of a temple?
May I see?
Sure. Why not?
Ah, yes. I recognize that. That's from the temple with the intricate door locking mechanism, isn't it? Quite a marvel of technology for the era it was built, those doors. I was very impressed with them. Now, what was the name of the god it was dedicated to? I can't quite remember.
I know.
I am sure you do, but give me a moment and it'll come to me.
I think he meant it's from the Temple of Anu Anu.
Ah, yes. I remember. The Temple of Anu Anu at Al-Khali. A lovely building.
And this is a replica of the seal.
Of much sureness. Replica of most exactitude.
That might be helpful to know. Thanks. The palace was due to buy some more wine. As far as I could tell, they would be collecting it sometime soon. I had a long wait, but it paid off.